Hello everyone, welcome to this week's FPV Podcast. This week, we got another young gun that's making a name for himself. We all know that pretty much the top of the charts in MultiGP right now is full of the young kids, and we get a chance to talk to another one this week. But before we get into that, Elvin, what do you have?
Hey guys, I'm just happy to say that we got a great pilot coming on today, and we're gonna chat for a little bit, and then let him get back to practicing and moving around the country and smacking some of them big boys down and putting them in their corner.
Oh dear, here we go. Soren, can you please introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? I am Soren Fat Kid Monroe Anderson. Starting it off, this kind of happened as Nationals was happening. I joined Team Pyro Flip, so That's super exciting. A really great racing team there. And then we've got Flight One. They have been a great sponsor. I've been flying Flight One for over a year, I think, at this point. Really liking the new 20x20 stacks, super solid. That ESC, the Spark 32 can pretty much take anything. Mm-hmm. Team Black Sheep, I'm running all Crossfire and Unifies on my rigs. Seems I've always had the best luck with Unifies. Never had bad video at events. Tattoo, they are a pretty recent sponsor, and like their batteries have been super solid. Ran them for all of Nats. Run Cam, also pretty recent. Running the Racer 2 cam. It's I think the best racing cam in the market right now. And HQ props, I've been running HQ also for a super long time, so I really believe in HQ. Olaf hooking me up with mounting boards for my Unify and receiver.
Woo!
He is not fat, by the way. He is the slimmest person you'll ever see.
I was worried about the wind in Vegas, that it might blow him all over the field. You know, he's that small. I mean, thin.
It's very true,
boy, you
man.
need to eat some food there, boy.
How did you get into RC, and how did you get into FPV?
So I started with RC planes probably like 8 years ago at this point. Just me and so I used to live in Alaska, and me and my best friend there got into RC planes and just started like flying foamies around, building our own. Then we kind of moved into quads when I saw a bunch of Sharpoo videos online and thought it was like the coolest thing. And at the same time, my dad, who has a mapping company, was looking into drones for imagery. So he was like, so we got like a Phantom 1, and I started learning how to fly drones as opposed to planes. And so I was trying to fly, I put FPV on the Phantom and was trying to fly it like a racing drone, and that didn't work out super well. So that's kind of what motivated me to build up a real quad. And then, that's kind of where it all started about 3.5 years ago.
3.5 years. Okay, so you were pretty much right at the beginning when drone racing started getting popular.
Yeah, so like I was starting to fly right as I was watching the 2015 Nationals happen.
Okay, yeah, well, I remember doing that. Yep. So, when that year happened and when you watched the Nationals happen, did that like kind of motivate you to get better at that point?
Yeah, I thought it would be really cool to be able to do that, but I didn't really start pushing kind of the racing aspect until I saw everyone at Reno and was like, because I saw all my friends there, and I was like, I really want to do that next year. So that's kind of what made me really want to start racing a bunch.
Okay, cool. And this brings us to another topic, because back in 2017 at Reno, you were there a spectator because you did not qualify. Am I correct in this?
I wasn't even there. I was just watching from home.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about your progression. How did you start improving to the point where, you come in third now in Champs in 2018?
So I pretty much just started practicing every day after school, and then in the summer, as much as I could. The RQ started off pretty early here, somewhat early spring, and I started like 6-lap pace, and then I improved a lot from there, running that course, running other courses, just flying as much as I could, and got to 7-lap pace, which put me, at the time, it was like 10th in the country or 11th in the country. So I started moving up on the RQs, and then I think what really helped me improve a bunch was just going to like as many races as I could. Buffalo Bando was the first one. I didn't do great there. I was not happy with my performance there. So I was like, okay, gotta step back, figure out what I'm doing wrong at races, figure out how I can improve. Before IO, me, John Templeton, Liam Flanagan, Olaf. So we all came to my house and just flew a ton of packs. Like we had like 5 days and just racing every single day. At that point, I was really chasing John, and I think that helped because chasing someone who's faster than you helps you improve a lot.
True.
So going into regional finals, I could see the improvement. And then also going into IO, that's really when it started. Like I was thinking, okay, I can start to be competitive now. And since that point, I've just still been flying as much as I can.
Nice. Okay, so from Buffalo Bando, obviously you weren't happy with your performance. What did you immediately figure out that you needed to improve upon? Was there just like a certain key things, or was it just more stick time?
It was partly like mentality at races. I think mental game is actually like a huge thing in racing. And if you can take your mind off of like what's happening and just when it's time to fly, stay calm and just go up there and like not psych yourself out, that's a huge part of it. And at Bando, I definitely had problems with mental game, and that was kind of what I needed to improve as well as stick skill, but mostly mental game.
So did you learn that staying focused and was the key, or was there a process? Like for some pilots, what they do is they think of it as a task. You know, each race is a task, and as you work your way through each task, you move to the finals, right? And then it's the showtime. You know, so how do you think about prepping for each race, or what's your mentality thought process when you're preparing for a race? Is it do you think of each heat as a section or as a whole?
Well, going into a race, I think I really need to like make sure all my quads are like super clean and super ready. And that kind of just like helps with peace of mind. And then going into heats, as long as I know I have batteries charged and I'm ready to go, then I can kind of relax and try and I think it's better to take your mind off of what you're doing until the heat so that you're not psyching yourself out and just thinking about it too much, because at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is just walk up, not care, and fly as fast as you can without crashing. That's what I tried to do at Nationals, and I think it helped actually because I was sick the entire event. So between each heat, I was like feeling so terrible, and I was not thinking about the racing at all. I was just thinking about like what I can do. Got to go grab some more tissues. Like so, I
whether
think
you
that
was going
helped in some aspect.
Whether you was going to blow a gasket somewhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, that is a big part of pretty much any professional game, in which, you know, you hear all the time on ESPN where it's like leave the last play behind and just focus in on the next one. That's kind of mentality that will definitely bring you far. So, you know, as you worked on that, you talked about how, you know, a bunch of your friends came over and you all practiced together, and, you know, you kind of learn from each other. You know, as you race against your friends, and who are also fast, by the way. Did you learn like specific things from watching them fly and kind of incorporate it into your own technique?
Yeah, for sure. One thing I learned, I think I kind of picked it up from John, was like the way you sit when you fly and like how like tense your hands are makes a big difference. And I used to kind of like lean back further and really like tense my hands down and push my thumbs down. And I realized I think it was a habit from being nervous at races, and it was super not helpful. So like trying to keep your hands relaxed and then sit in a way that's actually beneficial, it's actually kind of a big thing.
That's a great point, you know, because how do you sit? I mean, are you one of the dudes that have the radio sitting vertical, you know, and in your face, you know, or are you one of the guys like I know when I was racing, I'm more comfortable in the chair with the radio in between my legs and kind of laying in my lap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. So I like to sit. I can't really stand when I'm racing, at least. And then I put I have one of those radio stands on the back, so I flip that down and put that in between my legs, and it kind of keeps my radio there. So I hold it like that. I do like an interesting radio grip. I don't pinch, but I kind of have my hands on my radio like I do, so they're really far up. I like the way that gives a lot of range of motion. One thing I look at pictures of myself flying and I see like I'm really hunched over and looking down, which I think helps like when you're trying to focus on a really difficult heat. But I don't know, it might be better, at least for video, if you're using your goggle module to sit up and look forward.
You know, for some pilots, you know, it's like a struggle, you know, trying to figure out which way to go, whether it's the pinch or all thumbs. And what kind of roll rate do you have in your quad? Are you a 500, 600 guy, or are you, I mean, revolutions per second, or are you one of those 1100, 1200 guys that just the radio, one movement equals to eight millimeters?
I run 510 degrees per second on roll.
Oh, nice. See, I can fly your ship. We'll have to check that one day, you know.
So you like those long stick throws?
Yeah. I think hitting the plastic is good because it's really consistent. So like,
yes.
And I've heard Evan talk about this as well, where it's like every time you're going around a corner, if you can hit the plastic on the side, then it's like super consistent every time, and you know exactly what your quad's going to do. Exactly.
And I like this. See why see how that information is just traveling through the group. You know what I mean? It's one person acknowledged that something was happening, and it was consistently helping him maintain that roll rate and that corner, you know, getting that closer, because Evan gets pretty close to those lines. You know what I mean? Sometimes those are really tight lines, and you can't make much mistakes when you're, you know, less than 3 inches from the gate when you're hitting the corner, you know, and Evan moves that information to his teammates, and then they adapt it, and everybody's starting to pick up. I think this sport is starting to advance at a more technical rate faster this year than it was last year.
Do you agree with that, Soren?
Yeah, I think so. In some ways, technology, I think, has slowed down a bit, because like thinking about the difference from, say, right now to early 2018, the rigs are not that far off. But thinking about the difference from early 2018 to early 2017, I think the rigs are like extremely different. So in some ways, technology has slowed down, I think.
Okay. No, I can totally agree with that. It's the advancement hasn't been as amazing, but at least for the most part, you think the rigs have been pretty reliable this year, as in like the components are standing up to the racing season.
Yeah. I think one thing that's starting to happen that we didn't see in earlier years is like people trying to find the really like fine tuning race rigs, where now we're like trying out hybrid arms, which I personally run 6 inch in the back, 5 inch in the front, trying out like all these different things, different KVs, different cell counts. Like now that we've kind of got really reliable quads, I think at this point people are now trying to push for like that next best setup.
That optimal setting.
That's custom to the pilot, right? Because I don't think, you know, somebody can just look at your quad and then fly your quad and be as good as you, because it is specifically designed just for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Especially when you throw the radio in. Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody's feel is a little different, you know, and some guys can, you know, there's some people I fly with, their setup is very similar to mine, and I'm sure the same thing with UI and Soren. So that's not a rare case. It's just it's less likely to feel like your own when you're flying a ship that was set up by somebody else. Correct?
I agree with that.
Cool. All right. So moving on, you know, into IO as you're getting competitive, like what was that moment like when you know, thought back and says, you know what, I'm competitive with these guys. I can make it, you know, into MGP Champs, and I can be, you know, on the podium. Like, was that a singular moment, or was it like after a race that you realized you're competitive?
I think it was kind of just the progression. Probably RQ was a big moment after that last regional qualifier. When I put a good national time up, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is something I can hopefully keep doing and getting better. IO, like that night, because the finals went super late, and I think everyone was like ridiculously tired.
Yeah.
But like I was just I had some unlucky things. I think I hit a guide wire at one point and got mid-aired. But like the first heat I had was completely stacked. Or I qualified like 16th, and then so going in I had Evan, Jordan Temkin, I think Hyper. Like the heat was just completely stacked. And I remember being like, if I can go into winner's bracket from this heat, then that's gonna be something good. Everyone took off, and I was holding second behind Evan, and then coming around one of the I don't know what lap it was, but coming around one of the back corners, my quad just fell out of the sky. And then I was able to rearm and get back up and still finish fourth and go into the winner's bracket from that. And I was like, that's cool.
That's impressive.
Not giving up and then still being in the winner's bracket, being able to compete with, even the short name that you listed off means that, yeah, you're in the list, you can compete at any given race with them, which is really great. And, kudos to you for, putting in the time to improve that much in such a short period of time, because there are people that put years into this and, their improvements hasn't been as vast. I just attribute it to you guys being young. That's all I'm going to say. Just kidding.
I think it definitely helps. I mean, if you look at the podium from nationals, it's like Vandenberg's 19, but other than that, it's pretty much all under 18 besides Corey.
Hey, 19 is young too, so I consider him part of the
Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is.
All right.
But
so
hey, I got a question. So being one of the top qualifiers and one of the top pilots in the U.S., are you interested in going to other big races outside the U.S.? I know you race for DCL now, and is that something that you're looking forward to more outside of the country races?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be traveling this year. So hopefully I will be going to the DCL races. So that's a bunch in Europe and China. And then there's a race in Russia that I know about that I might be going to. And there's a race in Turkey that I will hopefully be going to as well. So
the next DCL
exciting.
race is in March, right?
Yeah. I think it's March 30th.
Nice.
Switzerland.
That's the one in Switzerland. Man, these guys is moving up, man, and going all kinds of places. Why? I mean, what happened to us?
We're just old. We're going to be stuck covering media for them. That's what's going to happen. That's just life. Let's get into champs. Obviously, qualified for champs in Vegas. You already mentioned that you were sick, which I got to admit, a lot of people were sick. Elvin got sick. We got sick. You know what?
Yeah,
it only takes one person. Yeah, it only takes one person. Tell us about the story of champs. When you got there and you started flying the track, what did you think of the track?
As most pilots thought, that DRL flag wall where you had to go through the gate and then immediately go up was kind of a strange thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really liked the course for the most part. It was kind of strange. It felt a little small to be a champs track, but at the same time they had to do two of them, so kind of understandable.
I thought it was small, but it's still, I mean, nobody got lower than the 17, right? So I didn't think the track was too fast. I thought it was fast enough, And then with that power loop and that turn that you was just talking about that kind of threw everybody off. I think that's what kept it super technical and wouldn't let people just to go wide open.
Yeah, and I would love to see another track like IO for champs where it's you're running 27-second laps instead, because I think it makes for better racing and it's more interesting. But
I agree. I mean, I agree that the track could have been bigger, but it was, considering that there was a lot of wind going on too, and that had a lot of effect on the races. Saw some guys get slapped into a net. I mean, into a power line, just like it happened to you before. And, we saw a couple of guys getting blown into the actual gates. So the wind also played a major effect on some pilots, but not all pilots, I would say.
Yeah. And I want to give credit to MultiGP for being able to finish that final racing before, a day early before the DRL thing started. That was very impressive, because I think historically MultiGP events have never been ahead or on time usually.
Ding.
But
Yeah.
it was great that they were able to do that.
True. That was some, hey, and that actually worked out really well because it gave a whole bunch of people that never been to Vegas or had been to Vegas and never had time to on their own to actually spend some time because most people left Monday,
Yeah.
and so it gave them all day Sunday to kind of either relax or, like me and Y did head out. We went to Hoover Dam and went and saw some other things and walked, and got blown all over the place.
Yeah,
we saw
for
some
sure.
really
It was
cool stuff.
good.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you on Soren. I think what they really should do is they should plan to go to Sunday, but like make Sunday optional, as in they can bleed over to Sunday if they needed to, but they should end a day early so that everybody can get a nice relaxing day in. Yeah, I'm totally
that's
for it.
something they talked about actually in the Tier 1 meeting that just happened. I think they talked about doing like trying to finish on a Saturday, using Sunday if they need it, but having it there as just a backup.
Yep.
Right.
I would totally vote for that because it made for a very nice Sunday, like everybody said. All right, let's get back on subject here. So obviously everybody knows you finished third, but let's rewind this. Once you got into the top 16, you were in the last bracket, and you were looking at that last bracket. What was going through your mind?
So going into top 16, I was pretty happy with where I was. I was fourth on the qualifying leaderboard. I wasn't able to finish my 7th lap because my battery died. So I had like 5 laps in 1:55. So I knew that pace was good enough to be pretty competitive. Going into it, I think I had a pretty good heat just to start off. So like I wasn't too worried about going into the first bracket. I think the one that was it was the most worrying, but I was still in the winner's bracket. It was like the quarterfinal heat where I had I think I had Evan Vanover. Yeah, I had Evan and Vanover, I think, in that heat, and someone else who was super fast. I don't remember who right now. But I was still able to move on because I was in the winner's bracket, but that moved me down because those two are just untouchable right now, I think.
They are super fast. So, going into, like as you're racing through this bracket and, you finally made it to the last race. Did you have a strategy going into that? Because you're going against the 2 top fastest people and they're hard to chase. So any strategies going into that last race?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all like happened super fast because it was like 3 back-to-back heats going from the quarter to semi to finals. And then at that point I was just really happy to be in the final 4. And Bull, who was the other one in that heat, he was kind of the person like I was trying to beat because me and him were like the closest going into it. He qualified. He got the number 1 spot for the contenders list. I got the number 2. So I was like, okay, I want to race against Bull this heat. Essentially, my thinking was probably not going to try and catch Evan or Vanover. If one of them crashes or they midair or anything like that happens, then I want to be there and like right behind them, but I don't want to try and push and crash. Essentially.
Yeah. So be opportunistic, know your limits. Really smart. Let's flip the question a little bit. How impressive is Evan? Like you've raced with him now. It's like what makes him so special?
I think Evan, he comes from like a competitive plane background where he's one of the best in the world at planes too. And he's just had a radio in his hand for so long. And
Experience.
He has so much natural talent and so much experience. It's kind of like perfect storm, I guess, if you want to like think about it that way. One thing which like I wish I had was being able to practice year round. Right now there's like a couple feet of snow on the ground. I'm up in Vermont, so I knew I was not going to have as much practice going into it as Evan or Vanover, who like Vanover went to Korea for 3 months to train, and Evan has a permanent course in his yard and lives in Tennessee, so can fly year round.
I gotcha. Yeah. What the top 3 to 4, actually, I would say the top 10 are doing, it's pretty amazing, pushing, the speeds of the sport to like limits that are like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So congratulations to you for finishing third because that is a major accomplishment. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, to go from not qualifying to being third in MultiGP Champs, that is quite amazing.
And that's like fifth in the world, though. That's impressive.
We're looking forward to seeing you compete with Quad Force 1 in 2019 to see what you can do over there. But, still, big congrats. And moving on into 2019, what are your goals?
I think DCL is going to be a pretty big focus. So learning how to fly those like really big 800-gram quads is going to be an interesting challenge. So I'm looking forward to that. But I don't want to completely stay focused on that. I want to keep competitive with 5-inch, which I think is completely possible because DCL doesn't take up too much time. So it's pretty much just going to be doing the same MultiGP regional series, some other races, just independent races, and hopefully doing better at Bando this year because I know that was a interesting event last time.
Okay, so you're definitely going to try to hit all the big races again. And then, I guess the DCL season is definitely going to take up a lot of your time, but you still want to be there for Champs in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. You know what? That's all the questions that I have. Elvin, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I got maybe one or two left, in there. You went from the 2207 1750 kV motors to now the 2207.5s with 19 and 22 for kV. What have you seen? Have you seen a great big difference in power and efficiency going to the slightly smaller stator size? I mean, slightly taller stator size?
So that's kind of like what I'm planning to do. I haven't flown a bunch since Nats, and I ran the 2207 at Nats. So I'll be moving to the 2207.5 and the higher kV. I kind of like talked to Evan after nationals and like kind of got his thinking on why it's better. And that pretty much convinced me. So I'll be moving my rigs to that, but I don't have a bunch of experience on that yet. What is the big advantage you're looking for? It's kind of like you never run out of power. You don't want to be going necessarily much faster on the straights than you can with like a 1700 kV rig. But when you're coming into those corners at that speed, having that extra kV on the top there when you're going to a corner, I think is where it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I get that whole theory too, because like I'm going from 1700s to 1800s now for my longer range or short, medium range, whatever you want to call it, quad for less than a mile out, ridge line, mountain surfing, whatever you want, beach romping, you want to call it. But I'm going to the 1800s because I'm still with the 17s, with 16 and 1700 kV. I find myself not having enough solid top end. You know what I mean? Like with the lower kV, my top end is not like when I don't feel like I got enough grab. You know what I mean?
Right.
At the top.
Yeah, for sure.
And so going to the 1800s is going to give me a little bit more top end, so the ship should seem a little bit more stable at that higher RPM level.
Yeah, you can definitely get like more grip, I guess, in the corners. And like I've flown a really high kV rig, and like that was kind of the thing I noticed is when you're coming out of those straights and like turning hard, doing a hard 180, and you just bring up the throttle, it just grabs so hard.
It's a quicker snap in the grab. Yeah. I agree, man. One of the things about the market has changed is like what I was talking about earlier when I said technical. You guys actually have gotten more technical along with your setups, and you guys are starting to look at the efficiency ratings and time flying and all of these other things that we wasn't really looking at in 2015. At least I know. Most guys was just happy the ship was flying in 2015, and now you have, 2016 kind of things. We made a motor jump, and then we made the timing jump. Loop times went up, to 8K, 32K, and now we're going backwards really and staying. Everybody was trying to get faster and faster. Now everybody in the field Betaflight is saying that they don't see the benefit in the higher loop times. Mm-hmm. So they're going to stabilize that and work on refining that section and leaving the hyper speed processors alone.
Yeah. I think there's kind of a divide where like Preston says 32K is like what you need to fly good. And I know there's things that go along with that, such as filtering and the gyro you're using. And then Betaflight really believes in the lower loop times, at least right now. So yeah, there's that divide for sure.
Well, man, I really appreciate having you on here, man. And it's been good conversating with you, Soren. And why, you got anything else to say, big boss?
Yes, sir. Soren, if anybody wants to reach out to you or follow you, just get in contact with you, what are your social media contacts?
So I'm on Instagram as fatkid.fpv with a PH, and then Soren Monroe Anderson on Facebook, and fatkid or youtube.com/fatkid for YouTube.
Roger.
He's still not fat. It's just not. I
don't. Too big kid should be.
He's gonna have to work on that department. Hey, Soren, really great to talk to you. A lot of great knowledge, and we hope for your continued success. Obviously, all the young kids, they stick together pretty well. They're all friends, so it's going to be really neat to watch you guys compete in 2019 to see who stands on top. Obviously, Captain Vanover is heading over to DRL. Don't know if he's gonna compete in MGP this year. Have you heard anything on that?
I'm not sure. I could talk to him, but yeah, I'm not sure right now. I'm guessing he will. Okay. And of course, Evan right now is the champ, so you got your work cut out for you. Try to bump him off. Just tell Evan. It's like they're coming for you.
All of y'all are coming for him. No, that's hey, even though y'all are competitive and y'all are good friends, y'all put on a good race, and you guys give it 110% when y'all are on the line, and that's what we really appreciate, the fact that you guys are actually excelling and practicing and pushing each other, which means there'll be better races in the future and more phenomenal stuff to happen later.
Cool. Thank you for the time, and we are out for the week.
Yeah, guys. Thanks so much for having me.